Yo, peace everybody. It's your boy Trey the Creator, and welcome to Creators Corner. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the video, as well as hit the notification bell, share the video. Yeah, like I said, like and subscribe. Um, this is I think week 9. For us, week 9 or 10, one of the two, whatever the case is. Yeah, man, I'm losing count of this shit. What's today's date? Because I always like to say today's date. Today's date is Thursday, November 19th, 2020. But where do I want to start here? Where do I want to start? And again, like and subscribe to the video. I think I want to start with the this is a little old, probably like a little week old, but I kind of want to start here. I remember seeing a clip, and it's funny, I can't seem to find it all of a sudden, but it was a clip of, I think it was Jamel Hill and Carrie Champion, and it's funny how, it was a very viral clip with Charlamagne and a few days ago, but now I can't seem to find the damn thing. I think I'm gonna scrub the internet of it, but I want to touch on this because I touched on this last week. I think that clip was disrespectful, and I think Charlamagne was playing face because he didn't want to rub the sisters the wrong way, or whatever the case is. Bullshit, but whatever the case is, I don't like this narrative that is going around that black men I'm gonna say should be demonized for quote unquote being Trump supporters. I think that's a very, 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 very dangerous quote unquote rhetoric to be spreading around to people, because for one, I think the statistics were like 81% of black men voted for Joe Biden, so we're just going to ignore that. We're also going to ignore the high number of Latino, Hispanic votes for Trump, with the low numbers that were given for Biden. We're going to sit here, and this is the reason I kind of want to start here. We're the only people that somewhat will get on a white platform, and this goes to the Van Jones thing. We'll get on a white black platform, pandering and somewhat making cooning to a certain degree about our own people. No other, you never see a Chinese man getting on national television, or an Arab man getting on national television tearing down the image of his own people. Why are we on these national televised networks talking about how black men voted for Trump and how black women saved the election? Like, why are we doing it? We do that to ourselves. Like, and I think that's just very, very sad. And like I said, Charlamagne was trying to, save face, but bro, he was tiptoeing the line between quote unquote being real and also being industry, because his answer was, well, we have to look on the surface of how, Joe Biden has all these laws against black people, which is true. We can't sit here and ignore that, because I think a lot of people, go disregard the crime bill and all the black people he's locked up, and he's been in politics for 40, 60 years and hasn't done a single thing, whereas Trump has kept a lot of brothers out. So he kind of, played safe or whatever the case is. But to me, he could have went in harder, because the narrative that these two women were trying to paint to me was very, 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 very divisive. And I feel that if we don't stop quote unquote getting on these national televised stations and demonize one another, and it's not, and at this point it's kind of too late, because we've done it so much over the years that it kind of has seeped into our homes and everyday lives. But just imagine, a young girl, hearing that or seeing that or whatever the case is. You understand what I'm saying? Like, imagine a young girl seeing these two, relatively influential women on TV demonizing black men, and how black men are support, because the narrative they were trying to paint was like black men supported are racist, as if Biden isn't racist. But whatever the case is, the narrative they're trying to paint is that black men, so 17 or 19% of black men voted to keep a racist or a bigot in office, but black women are the ones that basically got Biden in office. So we're the backbone of the community, and and black men, there's a problem with black. That's basically what they're doing, and that type of influence on a young child or a young girl is the problem with us, and why we don't trust one another, because we'll sit here and get on national TV and do that. You know, understand what I'm saying? And like I said, man, Charlamagne didn't do a good job to me of quote unquote defending black men. He tried to play tiptoe the line, and you know what I'm saying, the actions that we take today, you know what I'm saying, affect the later generations of black people. You understand? You may feel this way about today, but that little young girl who's maybe 10, 12 years old who's watching you, she's going to listen to that interview and that clip, and is going to internalize what she saw, and is going to start to believe that, okay, we can't trust black men. Black men ain't shit. Black men going out here supporting all of these races. And she's never going to really trust the man. Well, some of them who are gullible, at least, because we got a lot of gullible and easily influenced women out here who grew up in single parent households with just a mother, and the mother's already pumping into them, men ain't shit. So now you have these two influential women basically pumping that same rhetoric into the kids, and it's just a never ending cycle. So we gotta, anytime you see a black woman or a black man sitting here saying rhetoric that is disrespectful and divisive, you got to call that shit out. And that's probably the reason why the clip got taken down, because a lot of people was calling that shit out, because that video is very divisive. You sitting here having a whole entire segment based upon black men voting, I think it was like 17 or 19% for Trump, but no other people is doing that. That's retarded. You understand? And that, to me, that's a waste of a time segment. To me, that's nothing but to get likes and views. But you getting likes and views and clicks is damaging your people at the same time, and now it can create a gender divide. And this is why we don't need to be talking like that or engaging in damn, my cord got tangled up. Engaging in that type of rhetoric. So I wanted to touch on that first, because I thought that was very, very, very disrespectful. Where did my phone go? Okay, where do I want to go from here? And I'm kind of, trying to get to shit, because I got a lot of stuff I got to talk about today. Let's talk about the Million MAGA March. I thought that was the funniest shit ever. The Million MAGA March. Trump is a very interesting character. He really, really is. You know what I'm saying? To me, he's probably the funniest or the most interesting president I can remember in my lifetime. It hasn't been that long, but he is funny. Okay, so Trump and his people had a Million MAGA March. They'll never, ever, 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 ever give credit to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, for his march. So I just find it funny that these people had their own quote unquote march on Washington, all because their boy, quote unquote, as of now, lost, essentially. It just shows how, black people do stuff first, and then white people will, quote unquote, take an idea and run with it. And the funny thing about these Trump supporters is that they are a unified group. I don't care what anybody, they are unified. And and the funny thing about it is, when we look at the numbers of this presidential election, which I think some of it is bullshit, but when we look at the numbers, Trump only technically lost by like 2%, which means, really, if we're looking at a 50-50 marker here, that's like 48% of America, if we're going based off of their numbers, like I said, which I don't believe, but if we're going based off of their numbers, that's 48% of America that is MAGA. And people like me believe that most Republicans voted down Republican, which means they, you know what I'm saying, they left Trump blank, put Biden, but put everything else Republican, essentially. Like, Trump has a lot of supporters, man, and it's crazy when you sit here and think about it. He has a lot of supporters. I just find their unity to be somewhat of a lesson to what black people need to be, because we can't unify for shit like that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, the simple fact that these people can organize, and I'm using this as a teach point, the simple fact that these people can organize in large numbers to have a million MAGA march where they are protesting, they're getting shit done for their dude. To me, that just shows the dedication they have to this man in the Make America Great Again context and sort of statement. Whereas we as black people sit here and say we need, you know what I'm saying, we need to make our communities better, but we're not doing anything on the same organization type level that they're doing. You understand what I'm saying? Like, to me, that just showed how not only divided we are, but how unorganized we are. We are unorganized people. And I'm not saying it's not people out here doing the work. You know what I'm saying? You got, you know, some people from the ADOS crowd, the leaders of ADOS doing their thing, but there isn't a quote unquote common unity among African Americans to where we do something like that. You understand what I'm saying? I've always said this before, you know what I'm saying? You got your ADOS crowd, you have your Foundation of Black American crowd, you have your B1 crowd, you have your Boule Negro crowd, you understand what I'm saying? You have your Pan-Africanist crowd, Kemetic, Moor, Hebrew Israelite. You have all these different sects of African Americans in America, but we can't come together to basically fight racism. These people, I'm sure, come from different backgrounds. These white people, I'm pretty sure some of them are Jewish, some of them are Christian, I'm sure some of them are Muslim, I'm sure some of them are atheists, but they come together. They put all that shit to the side for the one common goal, which is Trump. Get this man reelected no matter what. But we can't seem to come together, you understand what I'm saying, to do shit. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it just shows where we are as a people and where white people are. And you know what I'm saying? KRS said this once, and this is kind of going to one of my videos later on down the line. White people's inefficiencies somewhat give them the ability to unify under those inefficiencies. You know what I'm saying? All the information out there about white people having the most recessive genes, them dying off. You understand what I'm saying? If black sleeps with white, the child's gonna be black. All the inefficiencies, health-wise and etc. They know how to come together, make under those inefficiencies, and make themselves thrive. We, on the other hand, have all of these efficiencies and can't come together for shit. We have all the knowledge, which some knowledge I'm about to give in this video. We have all the knowledge, we have all the data, we have all the research, we have everything we need. We have all the melanin, we have all the people around the world, we have all the African Americans around the United States, but we can't unify for shit. And I'm kind of going into the deep end onto another topic, but I just found that, to me, I had to kind of touch on that, because that's why I started this channel. It's not to basically pander to one specific ideology or group. It's because we need to unify. That's my message, is unity and starting conversations for unity. If we're not unifying, then what are we doing? If we don't unify, we die. White people understand that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, when we look at, you know what I'm saying, what was it? Like I said, I'm going into other messages, but I kind of need to stay on this. When we look at the what was it? The Dark Ages in Rome, the bubonic plague and shit. That was because all of their trade routes got cut off. Europe could not flourish because they couldn't bring enough resources in. The Moors came in and saved them, of course. And we saw once they came out of the Dark Ages, white people start conquering shit. They made sure that our inefficiencies would never be exploited or be that known again. Come on, I mean, like, that's simply put what it was about. That's the reason why after the Crusades they started conquering shit, because they made sure that every single trade route for the wheat, the barley, the corn, the gold, the silver, everything, they made sure every single trade route they were in knowledge of. They made sure they could discover whatever and go whatever. This is why they start doing all those expeditions and shit afterwards, because they wanted to make sure that they controlled every single thing. But I'm getting into a whole nother topic. What else was I gonna talk about? It's gonna be a long video, I can tell right now. Let's talk about Joe Biden. Joe Biden, now I touched on his 5 executive orders from last week. The 5 executive orders were, what was the first one? I think it was to put the U.S. back with the World Health Organization. The other one was to basically join, I think it was either UK or London, whatever country over there in England, to join the fight for climate control. He also had said that he wanted to remove the Muslim bans the travel bans on Muslim countries. He said he wanted to reopen the borders so that basically more immigrants could come in, and that more kids wouldn't be separated from their parents at the border. And he also said that he wanted to basically fight to get transgenders clearance to fight in the military. Now, there's an article that came out, I want to say a couple days ago, that kind of spoke to this. It's from News 24. I'll make sure to put, even if I don't put the screenshot in the, which I'm pretty sure I will, I'm gonna make sure that you can find this. The title of the article is Biden Rekindles American Dream for Africa's LGBTQ plus refugees. Biden's electoral victory has received the American dream for scores of an African LGBT refugees who fled persecution at home only to languish in Kenya. So, basically Biden is already doing the Obama stick. What did Obama do again? Obama did basically the same similar policies. He fought for immigration, he fought for LGBTQ rights, and he fought for rights of women. He didn't do anything for black people. So we already pretty much see the way that this is going. And a lot of people, quote unquote, don't see the writing on the wall for what it is, but it's no secret on this channel. I didn't vote down ballot. Some people did. If you did, more power to you. I thought about it. I honestly really did think about voting down ballot, because I was like, maybe I should, do something. But I was like, nah, I don't feel like doing it. So with that being said, it just goes to show that the only way that you're going to get shit done in this country is when you demand shit and do not support these clowns. Because clearly this man does not have, and so far he has not stated a plan to sit here and do something specifically for black people. Of course, I expected him to do stuff with the World Health Organization. I figured that off the back. I knew that he was going to probably do something with climate control. LGBTQ issues and immigration issues do not usurp the African American issues. Simply put, this man, and let me tell you how disrespectful this is, because I try to explain this shit to people and they don't listen. This man is too busy trying to deal with help with other countries' issues, and he's not even dealing with the issues of his own American citizens. What does that tell you about America? And because it goes all the way back, we can take this all the way back to Obama. What does it say if you continue to push for immigration, but you don't help the African American community that's already here? It tells you they don't give a fuck about you, essentially. This is what I try to tell people. You're fighting to, get Muslim bans off a country so more of them come over here. Why not just sit here? I mean, because think about it this way: the more immigrants come over here, that's more money that the U.S. also has to spend, but that's more money that the U.S. makes. Why not just build up the African American community so that they have money and that money is homegrown? Why are you going overseas to spend money to get these niggas over here and have them come over here and make you money when you could just pull those pull those resources that you would spend on them and spend on African American community? Why? Like I said, they don't give a shit about you. This goes to Dr. Claude Anderson's point. Black people are essentially worthless to America. We're just air people who breathe air, eat food here and shit. We own no wealth. This goes to the racial wealth gap. We own when we were emancipated, we owned no wealth. During Reconstruction, we owned no wealth. During the Civil Rights Act of 1964, we owned no wealth. We own no wealth today. We're in the negative, essentially. You understand what I'm saying? And this just goes to, you understand what I'm saying, a plethora of different things. But essentially, America does not give a fuck about us. I tell people all the time, America is a class system disguised as a casting system. Black people, no matter which way you look at it, the majority of us are always at the bottom. America can only function when black people are at the bottom. That's just how it goes when you're black and you live in America, especially if you're African American. You're fucked. You understand what I'm saying? And only way you can somewhat even consider yourself not to be fucked is to have a white dude essentially lay his hand on you and bring you into the door. You understand what I'm saying? Like even a self-made millionaire, essentially, in order to be let into the elite, it used to have to be by somebody from the elite. And who are the people that's in the elite? White people. That's just simply put how it goes. That's why I said America is a class system disguised as a caste system. Pure point blank, because white people control all the wealth in this country. It's white law on everything. When the Constitution was first being drawn up, it was white law on everything. You were considered property. It's white law on everything. White people made the speeding ticket laws. They made the I don't know what else laws is out there. What else laws is out there? You got to stop at, you know what I'm saying, you have to obey traffic signs. You understand what I'm saying? You have to have headlights on when you drive. What else laws? No stealing. They made all the laws, but they can give them. But the reason why it doesn't work for us is because when you have white law on everything, they can create loopholes for one another. Whereas us, we could sit here and let's say, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something. Let's say we speed. You understand what I'm saying? We ain't getting let off of that shit. We gonna pay every single penny they want us to pay. White dude may not get anything. And then on top of that, we might sit here and not somebody get harassed by a police officer. That shit don't happen to white people. The shit that we have to deal with is a multitude of problems because it's white law on everything, but white people don't have to follow that law. But let's keep it pushing. What else happened? So there was an article that came out that said Biden, people of color make up nearly half of Biden's transition team. Now let's talk about this people of color bullshit. People need to understand, and I'm pretty sure people do understand, especially if you watch my shit, because 9 times out of 10 I share this video with people who are somewhat like-minded to me. People of color, if you're not familiar, but you probably are, means women, immigrants. So when we speak of immigrants, the Chinese, the Arab, East Indian, Mexican, whatever, and gays. Those usually are the people of color, minority type shtick in black people. So I want people to really, really understand that when you hear people of color. Now, 46% of the transition staff are people of color. According to the diversity data of the transaction team provided to CNN, 41% of the senators and staff are people of color. The majority transition staff are women, and 53% of the senator staff are women. So more women shit. Biden's first major step towards diversity is when he basically selected Kamala Harris as a black South Asian woman as his vice president. More diversity tactics. Notice how they had to put the black South Asian in there. Let's see what else. And this article is from CNN, so it's no bullshit. I'm always gonna bring facts. I'm never gonna bring some fourth fucking, I don't know, strange type of source. I'm always gonna bring reputable sources and shit that people can look up and rely on. Because for some strange reason, if I come to somebody with some, I don't know, fourth, fifth tier type of article, they said, well, it's not reputable because it didn't come from a big news media outlet. So I make sure to always have something that is most definitely usable, Googleable, and trusted by quote unquote people who are not as conscious. But you can go read the article if you want. I heard they said he had one black woman up there. I forgot what she did. I think on the medical staff for the coronavirus thing was a black woman. Salute to her. I'm not going to really say anything disrespectful about her. But I would say that she's not African American. And that's all I'm pretty much going to say about that. But I know I saw kind of people beating up on her a little bit because she got the position. I don't think we should be beating up, you know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, she is an African American. And I kind of understand why people do, because this is something that we do need to notice. Obama's mother was white. Kamala Harris's mother was Indian. There's a reason why they usually pick people who are not African Americans as people in high positions, because 9 times out of it's something about if you was to bring someone, you know, an African American, a foundation of Black American, or someone from the American descendant of slave, if you was to bring someone like that into specifically political power, 9 times out of 10 they're going to probably have some sort of a connection with the African American community, and with that connection being done, they would, for one, speak the language. Not to say Obama never did, but they would most definitely push for the allocation of resources to the African American community. There's a reason why they pick people who come from immigrant backgrounds, and also to mention, Obama's father comes from immigrant background. I think he was Kenyan or Ghanaian or something like that. He comes from Africa essentially. So like I said, there's a reason why that is, because, and this is not to quote unquote be divisive or whatever the case is, but 9 times out of 10 they don't have that same connection to slavery here in the Americas, because if you descend from slavery, you understand what America really is about here. And this is something that they have to do. They cannot let somebody like that into office. So what they'll do is they'll pick their groomed Negroes. Everybody knows Obama was groomed and Kamala Harris was groomed. And they'll basically groom them from birth. I don't know enough about the black girl who's on the COVID-19 staff to know that to be true. But I'm speaking specifically to Kamala Harris and Obama. They'll groom them, mold them into what they want, and put them in the office. Because for us as black people, we're a people who have the mindset of a 3 or 5-year-old. All we need to do is see somebody that looks like us, and we think that's all we need. Look at Obama. More black people turned out in, I don't know how many numbers for Obama. All they had to do was just give us a symbol. It's the same thing with this time. We have a so-called black vice president. It's a symbol. It's like giving people a Cadillac car with none of the no engine, no AC in that shit. It's just gonna sit there. it's worthless essentially. What's the point of having a car if you can't drive it or use it? And especially if you're driving and can't use it, no AC. That's essentially what these quote unquote Obama and Kamala Harris's are. They're nothing but symbols essentially. And we've been dumbed down to just look at symbols instead of real tangible work. But this leads me, because I'm at 30 minutes already. This leads me to where my main part of the video, because I wanted to do this last week, but I don't this video is probably gonna be about an hour and 30 minutes maybe, but I don't be wanting to make my videos that long. I'm gonna be honest with you. So but I wanted to touch on I got my notes here. I wanted to touch on the history of the Democratic Party, because I don't think some of us know it. Some of us do. If you do, more power to you. If this also is a video you can share to people. You know what I'm saying? Make them knowledgeable, because some of us don't know the history of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, and I'm gonna touch on them both, because, like I said on this channel, we hold no stock in any channel around these parts. I mean, in any party around at this channel. Fuck them both. As far as I'm concerned, both of them have done shit to fuck up the black community over the years, and neither one of them has apologized or tried to rectify it. So fuck them both. But I'm first gonna start off with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party was founded in 1829. Of course, you know what I'm saying. Most people, if you was to ask someone today, if you had to ask someone today, what political party would fight for civil rights? 9 times out of 10, somebody would say the Democratic Party. Well, if we're gonna be honest about it, the first party to fight for quote unquote civil rights was the Republican Party. The Democrats have fought against every major civil rights bill that has ever been pushed. The Democrats defended slavery. They started a civil war. They opposed Reconstruction, and they also founded the Ku Klux Klan and imposed segregation and lynchings. Like I said, they fought against civil rights. Most people don't know that. I'm gonna say all that shit again. The Democrats defended slavery, which meant they did not want Negroes to become free. They started the Civil War, opposed Reconstruction, started the Ku Klux Klan, and imposed segregation and portrayed lynchings. The Republican Party, founded in 1854, was an anti-slavery party. Now I'm going to give you the real name of what the Republican Party was before it was the Republican Party. Republican Party, before we know it today as the Republican Party, was known as the Whigs. That's WHIGS. The Whigs, I should have put when they were started. Whatever the case is, before the Democrat and Republicans would be bumping heads, it was the Democrats and the Whigs. And the Whigs, when they were the Whigs basically were against slavery also to a certain degree, but they were divided on the matter because they didn't know if they wanted to they were divided. They didn't know if they wanted to do it 100%, because you got to think slavery back in, let's say, the 1830s, 40s, and 50s, and even before then, brought the U.S. a lot of money. But you understand what I'm saying? They didn't know if they really wanted to keep implementing that, or if they wanted to spread to the more western territories. So basically the Whig Party disbanded, and I think it was in 1854 the country was having a debate to whether states like Nebraska and Kansas should allow slaves, and like I said, the Whigs couldn't agree. Like I said, the western territories. And during the 1960s, I'm basically jumping ahead. Let me go back right quick. So, like I said, basically the the Republicans, not to say the Whigs, basically disbanded because they could not come to an agreement. And this is where we get the Republican Party from. Now, the Republican Party basically, its purpose basically in its foundation was to basically, like I said, be an anti-slavery group. And as we know, they became very powerful within like less than 10 years. They started basically in the 18th, I think it was in 1854. I think that's when they started, and not even 10 years later, they elected the United States elected Abraham Lincoln, and this is essentially where, you know what I'm saying, we get the first Republican president from. And also I have to say this about Abraham Lincoln. Also, Abraham Lincoln, he promised the southern states like Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, they wouldn't interfere with slavery, but the South didn't want to hear none of that shit because they felt that basically Abraham Lincoln would interfere with their slaves. So this is the reason why you have a split between the North and the South. This is the reason why, you know what I'm saying, the South was Confederate and the North was the Union. And basically that's how that right there went, and that's kind of how the Civil War essentially started. Now I also have to say this about Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln himself said that he did not want to free the slaves. He only did it because he had to. He said if he could keep the slaves as slaves, he would. Why? Because the slaves made money. The South was making a lot of money back then. So I mean, it's not really something to quote unquote, he had to do what he had to do essentially. But I'm jumping all over the place and I'm losing my fucking points. Now let's touch on the Dred Scott versus Sanford's case. I'm going back to the history of the Democratic Party. Most black people are familiar with this case, but they did not know that the Democrats were the ones pushing for slavery, and the Supreme Court ruled that, because basically the Dred Scott case was about, essentially Dred Scott, he was basically a runaway slave. He went to court, basically tried to get his freedom, but according to, I think it was the U.S. Constitutional Amendment 1 through 12, slaves were considered property. So he could not be considered a free man because black people were considered property at the time. And like I said, the Democrats were the people that basically pushed for this man to remain enslaved. There were a total of 9 Supreme Court justices. 7 of them were Democrat, and all 7 of them pushed for this man basically to go back into slavery. Let's touch back on the Civil War. Like I said, Abraham Lincoln became the president during the Civil War, and they say that he was assassinated by a man of John Wilkes Booth. I need to do a completely different topic on Lincoln's assassination, because I think most people find it very, very fascinating, and it goes more so towards the underlined secret societies of America, and that's all I'm pretty much say about that. But in essence, like I said, Lincoln didn't want to free the slaves. He said he wouldn't if he didn't have to. Now, once Lincoln was pretty much assassinated, Andrew Johnson, a Democrat, assumed the presidency, and as you guessed it, he did not want to give the new slaves the same rights as whites. He did not want to integrate black people into white social communities. Johnson and the Democratic Party all unanimously in their decisions opposed the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, which were all created to benefit black people. Now, what are the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment? The 13th Amendment is what abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment is what gave black people citizenship. I said this before. Black people were the only people in America considered citizens excuse me, up until I think it was the 1930s, or whenever I said the Great Depression started, or whatever the case is. And the 15th Amendment allowed black people to vote. Now, this is the one most black people don't even know that, what I just said, about the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment. These amendments all were created specifically for black people. Most black people don't even they go nearly 100 years into the future when we start talking about the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. They completely ignore the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment, because the 13th Amendment, again, abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment gave blacks citizenship, and the 15th Amendment allowed black people to vote. A lot of times I hear black people sit here and say our ancestors died and fought for us to vote. They were given the right to vote based upon them being in slavery and the Republican Party trying to get these people the rights of as U.S. citizens. The Voting Rights Act didn't come into effect, I think, until like 65. That is when what people mean when they say their ancestors died for the right to vote. But you already had the right to vote. The problem is that you had the Democratic, and I don't even need my notes for this. You had the Democratic Party not allowing you to vote. Basically, I think they would do like literacy tests and shit like that, and put different shit in place for your ass not to be able to vote. That's the Democratic Party, but people don't know that part of history. They think the Democratic Party has always been this quote unquote shining steel of armor or beacon of hope for black people. No. Like I said, the Republican Party has pretty much been the only party up until recently to actually somewhat push for African Americans to have some sort of liberties. But let's keep it pushing. Okay, Reconstruction. Reconstruction happened from 1865 to 1867. The Republicans secured rights for the newly freed slaves. Over 100 black men were elected to office in the South, and of course they're Republicans. Why wouldn't you be Republican? They the ones who got your ass in the office. 22 blacks served in the U.S. Congress by the 1900s. The Democrats didn't elect a black man into U.S. Congress until 1935. So, after Reconstruction, basically, and this is where the end of Reconstruction comes into play at. Basically, the Democrats took back the power of the South, and this is where we get all the black codes from. So basically, after Reconstruction, this is basically, you know what I'm saying, where, like I said, the black codes come from and shit like that. What were the black codes? Basically, to keep black people in check, there were laws passed, you know what I'm saying, that reallocated, they basically will put black people into a certain category to where you couldn't own businesses, you couldn't own property, you know, so basically you couldn't do anything. You basically had to beg and work to earn money, essentially, in the South. You know, so this is why when I sit here and, you know what I'm saying, black people say they want to integrate, you understand, it kind of makes no sense to people like me, because these people didn't want you in there, you know what I'm saying, near them anyway. Why would you want to sit here and drink coffee with someone who does not want you to drink coffee with them? People sit here and act like the Jim Crow and the black codes were some sort of, you know what I'm saying, white people's own, you know what I'm saying, rules. No, this was law. The Jim Crow laws were law. You had to go to a separate bathroom. You had to drink from a separate water fountain. That's simply because white people just didn't want you around. That was what America was about. That's why I tell black people, America's first rule was racism, and it always will be. It doesn't matter if you can drink from the same water fountain as a white kid. It doesn't matter. Why? Because that child may get better education than you. That child will probably grow up to be your son's boss 9 times out of 10. He's going to get far more benefits and is going to live a much easier life than your son ever will. But let's keep it pushing, because video's 44 minutes. Alright, let's keep it pushing. Alright. Like I said, the black codes would basically suppress black people from voting, because, like I said, the 15th Amendment allowed black people to vote. But like I said, they would do stuff like literacy tests, and they pushed the poll taxes and a bunch of other shit. like I said, this is America doing what America does best. Now let's talk about the Ku Klux Klan for a second, right quick. The Ku Klux Klan, like I said, was founded by the Democrats, and it was founded by a Democrat named Nathan Bedford Forrest. Now, you know, something about the Klan needs to be said. The Klan never left. The Klan is still here. They just don't wear hoods anymore. They wear police badges. Yeah, the Klan never left. They're still here. And even if they don't wear police badges, they wear business suits. They wear they own businesses. They work at our banks. They give us food at the supermarket. Yeah, they didn't go anywhere. Just because someone does not walk around with a hood on, or a white person does not walk around with a hood on, that does not mean that they are not part of the Ku Klux Klan. I'm pretty sure if his constituents would allow him to, Mitch McConnell would wear a Ku Klux Klan hood because his family owned slaves at one point. He descends from slave owners. So, like I said, they wear suit and ties most of the time nowadays and badges. Let's talk about President Woodrow Wilson. President Woodrow Wilson, basically his ideologies somewhat aligned with the Ku Klux Klan. He resegregated a bunch of federal agencies that you know what I'm saying, and he also basically screened Birth of a Nation at the White House. I don't think people really understand that. You understand? He screened the first movie ever to be played in the White House, and the first movie he screened was Birth of a Nation, which was formerly known as The Klansman. So you had someone who supported the Ku Klux Klan openly in office, but they say Trump is the first racist president. But let's keep pushing. Now for the Civil Rights Bill of 1964. MLK. Alright, cause my fucking feed went out. But let's talk about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That MLK and others basically marched for. This bill was supported by 80% of the Republicans and 70% of the Democrats. The Democrats basically fought against the bill for about 75 days, and this basically the Republicans basically had to really fight to get more votes, and this is basically how the Civil Rights Bill got passed. But people don't even know that. You understand what I'm saying? But what they do know is, and I need to go a little bit ahead of my notes, a little bit. Basically, it came out, though the Republicans are the ones that basically got the bill basically pushed through. You know what I'm saying? The Civil Rights Bill pushed through. A Republican representative, Barry Goldwater, opposed the bill. Basically, he was opposed to it because, again, the Democrats are against, not the Democrats, the Republicans are against big business, and the Democrats, not big business, the Republicans are against big government, and the Democrats are all about big government. Though they got the bill pushed through, this is kind of what kind of led to black people leaving from the Republican Party, to the Democratic Party. And basically some of the Democrats basically had to help push to get this bill through. And you understand what I'm saying? All of these years of black people voting Republican, essentially, Lyndon B. Johnson basically said, well, and I quote, if these niggers are gonna have the right to vote, then I'll have their ass voting Republican for the next 200 years. You can look that quote up yourself. So basically, this is the reason why they have to keep doing all of the civil rights shit and shit like that, because to keep black people, on their side, they have to lie. Essentially, the only party that really ever really somewhat gave a fuck about black people was the Republicans. And that's not, like I said, the Republican, I don't know if I said this already. The only reason why, and I've said this before, the only reason why black people were let into the social status of America was to help basically keep the American economy going. Most people don't even know that though. But whatever the case is, we were their muse, and that's, like I said, that's not to put the Republicans off the hook or whatever the case is. I thought my shit was going out again. Fuck. But anyway, yeah. So the only party that, like I said, really gave a fuck was the Republican Party. The Democrats never have and never will give a fuck about you. That's why they lie to you. That's why they sit here and basically fight for all these other groups to get shit and don't give you shit. Because the party was never meant to give you shit. It fought against every major basic civil rights bill to come into play. The 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. They fought against it. The Civil Rights Act, they fought against it. What more do I need to say? I think the Democrats are the ones who fought was basically against the stimulus bill. Wake the fuck up. These people don't give a shit about you. And like I said, this ain't the cape for the Republicans, but I just had to lay that history out. Like I said before, because my camera feed fucking went out again. All of basically that beer Goldwater situation is what basically made black people switch from Republican to Democrat. Though the Republicans still are the ones that got the civil rights bill basically passed through, but passed through Congress and to be signed essentially. And most black people don't even know that. But yeah, and I already pretty much said that Democrats were, at that time were big government, and this is why the Republicans were kind of reluctant to get it passed through, but they did. But white Southerner Democrats who hated the idea of big government switched to Republican, and this is the reason why the South is today red essentially. And this is the Republican basically. This is basically how the Republicans became the Republicans that we know today. They elected Ronald Reagan, who promised to fight against big government. And this was in the 80s. They to fight against big government. He will promote big business, lower taxes, and keep family tradition and values. That's pretty much the whole stick of the Republicans today. If you listen to anyone who's been Republican who speaks today, he pretty much speaks, that's pretty much what his core talking points are. As the 21st century comes around, the U.S. has to deal with a major demographic shift. Between the 1980s and 2011, a lot of immigrants will come over here legally and illegally. The Democrats began to push for the legalization and basically immigration reform. And basically this immigration reform, and like I said, this is the reason why the Democrats push for immigration so much. They basically, as I've already pretty much said, I think they were pushing for at least, I forgot what the number was, but it was a big ass number Joe Biden's trying to push of immigrants he's trying to get into. I don't want to misquote the number, but it was a bunch. But whatever the case is, this is the reason why they continue to fight for immigration, because it's so many of them over here that, well, let's just get these people legalized. And basically, as we know, the Republican Party is against immigration to a certain degree. They're like, no, we need to sit here and stop letting all these people in. And this is the reason why in 2011 Mitt Romney lost, because, you know what I'm saying, there was a lot of Hispanics who were already here, you know what I'm saying, Latinos who were basically citizens here who did not vote for him. and basically they voted for him. They voted for Obama by like 75 or something percent, and basically barely any of them voted for Mitt Romney. And this is how he lost and how Obama got his second term. And basically, the Republicans knew that basically they can't keep going this exact way because they're losing, voter base, and they're starting to look like basically a only white sort of party where only white people are allowed. Because you have to understand, the Democrats basically, like I said, Lyndon B. Johnson basically said that if he would have niggers basically voting, you understand what I'm saying, basically Democrat for 200 years if they're going to be voting at all. And this is how basically, how that civil rights bill, the fact that the Democrats supported it, is somewhat how the Democrat Party became this whole shtick of a civil rights, or we have to fight for women's rights and minority rights. It's because of that bill, essentially, because they signed off on it after basically not signing off on shit for damn near 60 to 100 years. But because they did one bill, they became labeled as the quote-unquote civil rights bill. But with all the history I laid out, I've already just basically described how they fought against every major civil rights bill. The only reason why it didn't get passed sooner was because of them, because they opposed it. And the Republicans had to keep fighting to get most of them to actually want to even support the civil rights bill. And even though the Republicans at the time knew that it would be a bad thing for them to do, they still supported it. But nonetheless, in 2013, the Republicans tried to present a bill that was kind of a bipartisan immigration bill, which would basically give illegal immigrants the path to legal status. Now, of course, like I said before, those basically Democrats who were once Republicans, like I said, the base of the Republican basically is based off of, they don't want to keep letting all these immigrants in. So Mitt Romney and all of these major Republican political figures look bad with the Republican Party because they felt betrayed, essentially. We don't want these people to keep coming over here. No, we need to, stick to, America, essentially. And of course, now that we really don't have a quote-unquote figurehead Republican politician that is in a high rank, this is how Trump could come in and basically steal the election. Well, not steal the election, basically come in and basically usurp all these other Republican nominees, basically in the 2015 Republican candidate race, essentially. Because he basically would say everything that they wanted and some, just to basically become president. That's how he became president. And that's how you have Trump today. And as you can see, Trump has amassed a following that is uncanny. And it's crazy. You understand what I'm saying? They will die for this dude because he speaks their language, even though he doesn't give a shit about them. And I think that is where I'm going to basically stop the video. I do want to, however, speak on something that I think I should speak on. I'm going to speak on, because I've been talking about money. I talked about money earlier, a couple weeks ago, the Money, Power, and Respect series. I need to go back and do that, finish that up, because it's like 2 or 3 more videos I need to do. But I kind of been wanting to kind of get off that. I don't want to be labeled just as a conspiracy theorist type of channel. But I do, on the other hand, because I did speak on in that video on what real money is. I have some real money. I spoke on something called a silver certificate. I have 2 of them. I didn't tell anybody I was going to get these, but I do have them. I have 2. This is one of them right here. This is what is known as a silver certificate. Back in the day, you could take this bill to the bank, because as I said before, money would be considered silver and gold. It still is, and the U.S. at one point was backed by silver and gold. But because the Federal Reserve bullied their way into the United States, now we have Federal Reserve notes. But this silver certificate here that I have would basically get you. Where the hell my things go? Oh, here it is. Well, basically, you could take it to the bank. I lost my silver, but you could take that to the bank and get you, an equal value or $1 of silver. My American Silver Eagle coming in the mail today, but I have a Canadian maple here. This is basically a silver coin. It's a 1 ounce silver coin. You can take it to the bank and get you basically a silver dollar, real silver. Nowadays, when you go to the bank, you get 4 fucking copper lead quarters. It ain't worth shit. But silver, because it's a precious metal, and this is real silver. I'll put a picture of it. It's fine silver, 0.999, 1 ounce silver. You can go to the bank and get yourself silver. Silver is a precious metal. I made sure to get this stuff specifically for the video, and yes, I am finna start stacking silver. I already have some silver at my disposal, pretty much. Why am I stacking silver? Because I know somebody's gonna ask, well, why are you getting silver? Because I know that the US dollar is not worth shit, and the more money they print, the more the US dollar is not worth shit. You could buy, I remember when it was a post or something I saw, you could get a burger, a hamburger for $15 back, I think like the 40s or 50s or 60s, some shit like that. What it costs now today to buy a cheeseburger from McDonald's, it's like $1.20. That's because the reason why that is because the dollar, the price of the value of the dollar is continually being devalued the more and more they print money. Silver, on the other hand, is a precious metal. It's always going to retain its value no matter what. What silver was worth back then, silver is worth now. Why? Because silver is backed by itself. It's not backed by a government. That's the reason why the government had to get rid of silver, or take silver out of being backed in the government. Because if you sit here and back the U.S. government off of silver, it's not really going to work. For one, because that means that the people have silver now and can have access to it, even though we have access to it now, like I do. But if you have a money backed off of a precious metal, essentially it's a limitation to it, because silver isn't cheap. But if you have a society backed off of a currency or a fiat currency, like the dollar, US dollar, the Chinese yuan, the European pound, if you create this fictitious currency or paper money, you understand what I'm saying? It's easy to print, it's cheaper to print, and also it's not backable by anything. So you can print as much of it as possible. But when you print as much of it as possible, the value decreases, which is the reason why $20 a day back in the day could get you way more. Today it gets you much less. If you can get if hamburgers cost 15 cents in the 50s, 15 cent, let's do some math right quick. If we do, let's say $20, let's do $20 times 0.15. Oh shit, hold on right quick. 0.15, 115 times 20. You understand? You can get, I think, like maybe 300 hamburgers. I think that's what it is. But today, if you sit here and take that same $20 and go to the McDonald's, and let's say it costs you, I don't know, $1. Let's say it costs $1. You only get 20 hamburgers. You can get a shit ton back then, and I might have been wrong with the number because I'm kind of paying it. But whatever the case is, if you do the math, 15 cents out of $20, that's a shit ton of hamburgers. Whereas today, it's $1 for a hamburger. That's $20. Whereas this, you understand, the price of silver always is going to be what it is, no matter what. Because it's a precious metal, and that's how much it costs, basically, to get it. It doesn't matter. So I'm buying silver, basically, to go against inflation. And this is something I'm investing in. I would say invest in the gold too. Gold is expensive as shit. 1 gram of gold costs like $80. That shit is high as hell. But yeah, I wanted to put that in there. I'll touch more on shit like this at a later date. But yeah, I appreciate everybody for looking at the video. Like, subscribe, peace.